Hey guys, MD Prepper here. Part 14 of the 72-hour survival kit, prepping kit from Dollar Tree. Got a lot of new additions here. This is going to be what this video is about. New additions, new pickups, kind of last minute stuff that I found recently at my local Dollar Tree. This is probably going to be the last video on new gear. We're probably going to be talking about what we keep, what we don't keep here after this, but maybe not, just depends on what you guys tell me. Alright, let's start things off. Rubber bands. Picked up some rubber bands, some what I'd say is medium-sized ones. They're thicker, they're not as big as they could be, but good for holding things together. Attaching things one to another, things that pair together, you know, putting 2 to 4 extra batteries or 6 or whatever on the actual flashlight you're going to use, attaching matches, etc. Just all sorts of things. You can't have enough rubber bands, okay? I just can't say enough good things about that. We're not going to need the whole pack, obviously, but we're going to use that throughout the kit to hold things, you know, like type things together, things that match together. You could use this for attaching your shelter and all that as well, if you had to. Would not choose to do so first line, but got to have some rubber bands. So there we go. Next up, cordage. Found another interesting option for cordage. Found a clothesline, plastic poly clothing line with a hook on it. 70 feet. That's more than the 50 feet we're used to here on this one. Now if you see here, this is much slimmer, thinner cord, wound together, not braided, but it does have a little hook here on the end of it, which can be useful for securing things down nice and secure. So 70 feet of this stuff, came in multiple colors. I just got red just because I did. Compared to this, 50 foot, 70 feet's longer than 50. So this is thinner. This is going to be easier to twist up and tie knots and that sort of stuff. Now, on the flip side though, this stuff, you know, it's three strands from what I can figure, you know, wound together. So I can unwind this to make this basically. But I like the little hook on it and all that, so might want to include this, maybe, along with this one. I don't know. That's a whole lot of cordage, but you can't have too much. So, just something to think about. Clothesline, you know, put it between 2 trees, tie it off the hook, all that type of stuff, tighten it up. You know, you don't have to unweave this stuff if you don't want to. So, it's got 2 strands in it, one red, one white, if you see that there. So, that might have some options, okay? This is not terrible. Maybe not necessary. So, put that aside. Let's see. Zip ties. Found some zip ties. Had not seen these before at Dollar Tree. This is a 100 count of cable ties. I call them zip ties. Has 2 sizes in them, from what I can tell. The longer ones, which are the ones we're going to be interested in, this little cheap plastic case, which is, I'd say, worthless. Have not counted these, but that's a lot of zip ties, okay? I'd say these are good. I'd say these are useful. I'd say we probably need a few of these at least in our kit to pull things together, maybe. Now, we've got duct tape, we've got our cordage, we've got electrical tape, you know, all that. You've seen those vids before, but some zip ties can be useful, okay, for securing things together. So, the larger ones I'm interested in. Here are the shorter, smaller ones. We could carry those. I'd say not. I'd rather have something longer and I can trim it off if I need to with my knife or little razor blade, that sort of stuff. So we got 100 of them total. I think we've probably got 2/3 of them in the shorter size and maybe 1/3 of them in the longer ones. So just another option. Let me know what you think as far as how many of these we need. But that's a lot of zip ties for $1. So. Now the plastic container is worthless. I would not carry this with us at all. There you go. But anyway, zip ties. Maybe a nice addition to the kit. Alright, next up I did pick up an extra water bottle that was natural, shall we say, natural aluminum. I've shown the green one before. I actually picked up several more of these. They didn't have many of them at the store. They had most of the colored ones in red and green and blue and everything else. But I don't want that paint on the outside to, you know, put off its fumes and all that as I try to, you know, if I have to, boil this thing. Now, with our kit, we may not have to boil at all in this because we've got the loaf pan and everything else. But anyway, I prefer 2 of these, you know, pure raw ones here. So, there's a pickup. Let's see, what else do we have? I did actually find some of those 80-hour survival candles. So it's big, it's actually quite heavy, it's very heavy. This is probably the heaviest piece of our kit overall. Do we need 80 hours worth of light and fire from a single 72-hour kit, or for a single 72-hour kit? I'd say we don't. We don't need 80 hours of light. But, darn it, it's nice to have. I could light this up if I was in wet conditions or anything else, and, well, just let it burn. For 72 hours, we're good to go. I don't have to light this thing again as long as I don't get this thing extinguished with any kind of, high winds or anything else. Keep this thing sheltered, good to go. For $1, tremendous. So, we may not need this whole thing. Again, quite heavy overall. Nice, thick glass on it, so not likely to break unless we drop it on some rocks or something. But it's okay. Now, the problem with this, if there is one, is we're going to have to carry the longer matches. Those, what I call fireplace matches. These big ones here. We're going to have to carry some of these, if we plan on relighting this thing. This thing gets down, and you got the big wick on it up here, but once it gets down a ways, the little short matches aren't going to matter. They're not going to help. So we're going to have to carry 6, 8, 10 of these, probably attached to this, I would say, with our little rubber bands. 2 should be enough per day. So I'd say 6 to 8, if we want to carry this. We may not. But anyway, for $1, either way, if you don't like this kit, if you don't believe in anything in it, get some of these, okay? $1 for 80 hours. Keep these under your kitchen cabinet or bathroom cabinet, wherever. Nice to have around. So, enough on that. On the smaller option, we've got these. I had not noticed these until my second store, which carries these. These are poured glass votives, or candle light, tea light candles. 2 of these. I'm just going to show you one here for $1. So, 50 cents for the thing. Basically comes in what looks like a shot glass, which I guess you could use later once you've survived to celebrate the survival. But, there you go. I don't know exactly how long this thing is going to last as far as burn time. They do not list it on the back here. But looking at your standard votive candles and all that, and that's what this brand is, and the rest of the votive candles I've got, tea lights, this is probably, what I would say is probably 6 to maybe 8 hours, maybe 10, I don't know, maybe more. But enough for nighttime conditions in most situations. You're not going to burn your candle the whole night unless you need the heat. 2 of these is probably going to be enough for most of your survival situations. Going to provide light. It's already in a nice little container you can pick up and carry around if you need to. So this is another option if we don't want to carry the 80-hour one. And 2 of these is a heck of a lot lighter than the 180-hour one. But, efficiency and all that, maybe we'll want the 80-hour. I don't know. So just thought I'd mention that. Bought that because you can't have too many lights. Dental floss. Nothing worse than having food stuck between your teeth day in, day out. So, not saying you need to carry this necessarily, but you could weave this together to make some fishing line, some very, very basic, lightweight cordage, something like that. I think it's 55 yards. Yep, 55 yards, Johnson & Johnson, good stuff. I tend to carry dental floss just because I tend to get food stuck in my teeth, but that annoys me personally. You don't have to have this, but thought I'd throw that in there as an option. Extra cordage options. We talked about the clothesline. How about some bootlaces? Just saw these today, picked those up. 3 sets of bootlaces, so 6 of them total, 2 each. One of these is 72 inches, one of them is 54, and the next one is 45. This is some darn decent cordage for $1. It's going to be able to cinch up better, I think, with better friction and all that for tying knots than the polycord. So I think we have to include at least 1 set of these, if not all. I'd say all of them. I still like the polycord, rope and all that. That's going to be useful. Okay, this is going to be better. Better friction, better retention. Going to hold better knots. Now, will this rot out faster than the polycord? Yeah, but for 3 days, who cares? 72-hour kit's what we're talking about. So I'd say all 3 of these personally. Let me know what your thoughts are. But anyway, 2 in your kind of natural boot color and 1 in the black. So for $1, I think that's a must. Next up, we talked about containers for bleach, for purifying water. I think I found the perfect one here in the Murine Tears for Dry Eyes. That's what the outside package looks like. Here's what the bottle looks like. Now, for general purposes, for a gallon of water, you need just short of 5 mLs. It's 1 teaspoon, which is 4.9 or 4.8 mLs, something like that. Let's call it 5 just for general purpose use. You need 5 mLs to purify a gallon of water. Now, a gallon per person per day is excessive in most cases, but is more than enough. Well, guess what? This thing comes with 15 mLs, so do the math. 15 divided by 5, 3 gallons. That's 3. This is 3 gallons worth of water purification, which is exactly what you want for survival, that type stuff. Now, do you double that or increase it if it's dirty or turbid, all that kind of stuff, you know, bad water. Hopefully you've already filtered that out and cleaned it up. But anyway, bottle this I think is a must-have. You know, pour out the saline and all that inside the eye drops and fill it with basic chlorine bleach like we already talked about. This is probably going to be perfect. Now, you may want 2 bottles of this. You may want just the one. Before I actually picked this up, this is the only bottle I saw in the checkout line. I had not found anything else for eye care or anything like that at the 2 local Dollar Trees. What I did find is this Icy Breeze breath, drops. Okay, little small miniature bottles, which we could use. I don't know if you want to or not, or you can just keep one of these for breath freshener, all that. Don't want bad breath in the apocalypse, I guess. These have 3.2 mLs per bottle. What you got to do is you got to pull a little cap off here. You can pull that off with your teeth and dump it out, clean it, and fill it with bleach. You say 3.2 mLs. You just told me that I needed 5 mLs per gallon. Well, you're not going to be doing anything in a gallon-sized container, guys. We already talked about that. This is 1.5 liter. Well, sorry, 750 mLs. So a few drops, is going to be enough to get this done. So if you want to really scrimp and save on weight, do the ultralight thing, this is going to be okay. This is 0.69, let's call it 0.7 gallons of water per this little bottle filled up. And you get 3 of them for $1. This is better overall. What you may want to do is carry 1 bottle of this for general purpose water purification. But if you just happen to have some extra dirty water, you may want to have this as backup for a few extra drops thrown in there. Don't know your thoughts on that, but I think the Murine's going to be fine. These little dropper bottles, I may want to actually have one as backup, just in case something happens to this one. 1 is none, 2 is 1, and all that. Now, along with this bottle, let me say, this is 15 mLs, but it's not full. Don't know if you can see it there, but the water only comes up to about there. So you could probably put another 3, maybe 4 mLs in there if you needed to top it off. Anyway, I'm definitely going to carry this one with the bleach, and I'm probably going to carry one of these, just in case, again, if this thing happens to pop open, leach all my bleach out into the bottle or, in the bag. This is probably going to be enough. With my already 2 full bottles of this, I'm probably going to be okay with my boiling options and all that. If all I absolutely had was this full of bleach, I'm okay. So, think about that. Now, last piece of this is absolutely not needed, but the only thing we have not talked about is signaling. I didn't have any mirrors in this kit other than tin foil and all that. Didn't have any whistles, could not find any whistles, even in the toy section. You may not want this, but an air horn. I took this out of the package just to show it off. Very loud. That's just me barely pushing it. You need to signal. Why scream and yell? That's going to waste calories. If you got a signal and there's somebody nearby, this is going to do the job. I would keep this in the original package. Don't know how many bursts this thing is good for, but heck, it's better than screaming. Now, this comes as a separate piece. So they come in the pack, thusly, however, sealed up for $1. You may not want this. This may be a bit of overage, but, standard survival situation where you're sitting there with a whole bunch of other folks, you don't need to be found necessarily because everybody knows where you're at. You're just out of luck. But if you're stranded, this may not be a bad option. It's kind of big, kind of bulky. Wish I could have found a whistle, but I didn't. Okay. there you go. All the various sounds this can make. Now, I may be thinking too much about this, but this is a little funnel as far as I'm concerned if I'm not using it with this. Okay. Happens to fit perfectly inside this little bottle top. Now, if I'm pouring in this size, it's not much of a funnel, okay? But if I'm pouring slowly and all that, it's okay. What I would probably, maybe, again, thinking a little too much, use this as, put it here on this end, seal it up with some duct tape or some electrical tape, and I can use this to flush out a wound, okay? That little small opening is going to add a lot more pressure to the column here, the top here. So if I had to flush out a dirty wound, something like that, I may tape this up with some duct tape or electrical tape, anything like that, and dump and pour and flush out some kind of injury. Again, maybe I'm overthinking that, but just another option. Again, this is kind of big for $1. I don't know if I want this. Maybe a bit much, but anyway. There we go. Additions to the kit. Not going to keep them all probably, but just throw that in there, guys. Let me know what you think. Again, this is probably the last video on new gear overall. Then we're going to start talking about honing down things and get things back to how we want them, to what in the heck we want to actually carry. Anyway, ND Prepper, out.